this is G from Outlier. I sort of have a new box to unbox today. Obviously, I didn't actually get this out of the box, but I was so graciously offered to borrow it from my distributor, E&M, who stocks these robots. And what this robot is a collaborative robot called a Techman. If you're familiar at all with the collaborative robot space, it might look a bit familiar, and you might think that it's an Omron robot. In 2018, Omron and Techman joined in partnership, and now it is mostly branded as Techman, but Omron is still involved. I wanted to show you 3 features today that I think are pretty unique in the collaborative robot space that the Techman has out of the box as part of its features. Before I get into that though, I did want to point out a few things that are just standard on the collaborative robot itself. This particular one is a 6 kilogram payload and a 700 millimeter reach. I believe it's kind of in the middle to small end of their offerings. And as you can see over here, I have a monitor showing its pendant type software application. It doesn't actually come with a touchscreen pendant that you might think of with most robots. What it does come with though is called this robot stick. And it has an e-stop and the ability to change modes and jog speeds. So it's mostly useful for setting up and changing through your different positions. But when you're actually developing a robot program, you would be either connecting directly to the robot controller through a monitor like I've done right here, or you can connect to the controller over an Ethernet or wireless if you hook it up that way, and use TM Flow software to program the robot. All right, so let's get into some of the features that I wanted to point out here. So number 1, you can see right here, there is actually a camera standard in the neck of this robot. What that allows is a much greater flexibility than what you might think of as a standard collaborative application. So a lot of people use collaborative robots for picking and placing objects in palletizing or picking out of a bin, kind of mundane tasks that someone would be doing at the end of a packaging line. You can definitely do other things, but this is a pretty standard application. What the camera allows you to do is to start to add flexibility to your picking. So if there was a rotation of what you're trying to pick, you can set up the camera to detect that or detect a pattern and put logic into it. You can definitely do this with other collaborative robots, but it's not integrated into the platform as closely, right? You would have to buy a camera, set it up, figure out where to go, put it on the end of the neck, whereas in this case, it is just part of it added into the software and it's right there ready to go. Okay, so number 2, also on the neck here, you can see that there's a couple buttons on the camera. And what these allow you to do is more for the teaching of a program. So on the back here on my monitor, I'm still connected to the robot controller, and this is their graphical flow software to write a program. So before you do anything, before you even hop on the teaching area, you can start to set up points right from the neck. So if I push the free button that releases the brakes into a slow position, I can position it, push point, you hear a beep, and then you see that point come up right in the program. And this is where you can just immediately start programming this robot. So I'm going to do one here, one here, here. Okay, I got 3 points. I'm going to step back and be safe, and then push play, and we should get it to run through this immediately. Now this is a very slow speed, obviously. When you do this the first time, you want to have your finger on the e-stop. But what I'm really showing here is that with very little knowledge, you can just immediately start interacting with an application and writing a robot program. All right, so number 3 is using these Techman locators. And what this does is you use it in conjunction with the camera, and it allows you to put a frame of reference on where the robot is working. So if you're not really familiar with robotics, why is that important? When you're working or setting up a program, you need to have a frame of reference of where the robot is going to pick or do some type of work. So let's say that like you're trying to work here and you're trying to pick up this mouse, right? When you pick it up, the robot is, unless you're using the camera, right? Like the robot's always going to go to the same position. That's part of the robot program. But let's say that now we need to move relative to the robot and do it up here. And you don't want to retrain where the robot should go. What the locator does is when it's in the field of view of the camera, it can put that relative location, see it, recalculate everything, and you don't have to reprogram it. So there's definitely concepts similar to this in other collaborative robot platforms, but again, what is cool about it is that it is directly integrated with the camera and part of the integrated features of the robot itself. So easy to use, easy to set up, and get going on your application without having to learn a bunch about robotics. Thanks for watching today and learning a little bit about the Techman robot. If you want to know anything about Techman, you can definitely reach out to myself or E&M, the distributor on the West Coast that I have been working with to get this demo. Thanks and watch again soon.